Let's do it a bit different today. Top 3 meta loadouts separated in 3 roles, perfectly fitting for your Warzone ranked team. We have the aggressive player, the one that always pushes into the building first, followed out by Mr. Medium Range. AR plus SMG player that covers the back of the aggressive player and is always right behind him, the second one into the building. And then last but not least, the range support. That's the guy with a sniper rifle and an AR, or sniper rifle and SMG, depending on your playstyle. Let's begin with the aggressive player. He wants to have an SMG that's super fast, movement-wise, and time to kill wise. With the latest changes in Season 3, nothing actually changed. The Lachman Sub and the Vaznev 9K are the 2 ruling SMGs, where I do prefer the Vaznev 9K over the Lachman Sub because it has some more effective damage range, especially when you're using the cast barrel, still giving you a very good ADS time. Doing this on damage range and recoil steadiness. That gets followed up by the Ftac Grimline laser that gives you hip spread and also hip walking speed, that in case you're actually the first one to breach the building, because you're the aggressive player, you can start with hip fire and traverse into ADS fire. That you can actually shoot on 10 meters, and since you have a 13 meter effective damage range instead of 8 like the Lachman Sub, you could also shoot medium mark. Now, the good thing is the 45 round mag get buffed. The movement speed penalty is lower and the EDS speed penalty is lower as well. Since your recoil is extremely good, we're putting on an OPX9 grip to tune that for hip accuracy and recoil control to make it even better hip fire wise. And then last but not least, the demo grip for a little bit of recoil control, but that gets tuned towards sprint of fire speed and aim down sight speed, creating an absolute fast moving SMG that has the hip fire to contend close up, and then again close Kevin, no recoil at all, medium mark, easy peasy. Distant Dave is not something you'll ever want to even remotely attempt, obviously. But what is your choice for the long range? Now, we're saying long range, but you're the aggressive player, so we're going to take something that beams on 100 meters, very efficient because you're always the frontline runner. You can take the Cronen Squall for that, for a single fire tibbity tabbity, very good time to kill, and especially if you get closer to people full auto. But I would like to actually propose the M13B, which got newly buffed in the patch by adding minimum armor damage, which reduces the shot to kill by 1. And that, with the extreme high fire rate, gives you a gun that now has an even better time to kill on range. Some of the best one, pretty much. We're going for the Corvus Soul because with the Corvus Soul, you have the perfect magnification on the visual recoil with the gun. And as you can see, without a single attachment, I could shoot already in the medium range without any recoil deviation. As a magazine, we're going for the 60 round mag full because you're burning through ammo a lot. The problem the M13 has is the bullet velocity. You could take a combination of barrel and muzzle, but that's just simply not enough. So we're actually going to put on the high velocity rounds on recoil steadiness and smoothness. And then the high velocity rounds are a percentual increase. If I now put on a muzzle silencer to keep off the radar band, not the map, but the radar band, that's why we use silencers, it's a percentual increase as well. And that together gives you enough bullet velocity for this aggressive playstyle. We're increasing aiming idle stability and recoil smoothness. Aiming idle stability to get rid of the recoil variation a bit. And that gets followed up because your recoil is pretty much straight up with the lock grip precision. There's no visual wibble wobble in on side speed and hip recoil control. So you're perfectly off shooting in a straight line. One thing you're going to be aware of, the gun kind of accelerates really fast in the beginning. You notice this when you start shooting, whoop, it feels like a bonus speed boost. So that is just something to keep in mind when you're actually shooting at someone, especially when you're shooting for the head, that you should expect a very aggressive pull in the beginning. Now, if you feel like there's a lot of gun smoke, that's always a billion times worse in the shooting range than it is actually in the real game. But what about our medium player now? Because he needs an assault rifle that can also shoot on like 200-300 meters, whereas the aggressive player wants to shoot on this close range, people rotating from building A to B, and you just want to have that fast movement and ADS pairing. For the SMG, you could also go for the Vaznev 9K, but since you're this medium player and you're right behind the pusher, I like to recommend the Val because of the high effective damage range. That means if your first player's in the building, you have the 16 to 20 meters effective damage range where you can then be behind him and beam the guy he's actually looking at, but still be in your first damage range with the Val instead of with the second or third with the Lachman Sub. And the very cool thing about the Val is you have the Tango Barrel, which gives you a huge increase of effective damage range and recoil steadiness, plus then the Point G3 P laser as well for hip spread and hip walking speed, together with the Here is a little bit choose your poison. They just recently buffed the 30 round mag to make it even better. So you're an absolute speed demon, but you also only have 30 rounds. That being said, you reload extremely fast, and especially with fast hands, that could work out. Since you're not the first breacher, you're not 10 to 1v3. It could be a thing. I tend to go for the 60 or the 50. Again, both get buffed. Both are now faster movement, faster ADS time, but the 30 really has a selling point. That being said, we follow up with the OPX9 grip here as well for even better hip fire, and tune this for hip accuracy and control, giving you, in case you're inside a building, an absolute banger one. Still though, with your recoil, you can absolutely kill him, and that's the two targets you're looking for, the 20-meter range, because that's where your effective damage range plays around. Now you could again go for the Lachman compensator to get rid of some more horizontal variation. But here, I again prefer the recoil control grip on sprint and fire speed and aim down sight speed to make you an even more speed demon. And have the absolute supreme control. Just don't forget that you do the final bolts to kill a character and don't stop shooting before. Goodbye, middle mark. What assault rifle fits for that playstyle? You could take the ISO hemlock, because the ISO hemlock is still the good thing up and running. But there's one that has a better time to kill, especially since you're this medium aggressive player that you're also shoving behind your friend. Just be ready to help him. And that would be the Cronen Squall with an absolutely insane time to kill. The really good thing about the Cronen Squall is with the 50 round mag, and here we're going for the Core Soul on far and aim on side speed, that you're going to play it full auto, 100 meters and below, and single fire above that. Full auto is here, very easy to handle. And in case someone just goes really far away, you swap to single fire, and you can just spam it away single fire. Now, obviously, there's a lot of recoil here happening right now. Let's fix that. Bonus, we're slamming on the HR barrel. That gives you a huge, insane amount of bullet velocity plus. That goes for damage range and recoil steadiness, just to pull out the first damage range even further. Then for the muzzle, we're using the ZLR Talon to get it over 1,000 meters per second. Aiming idle stability, recoil smoothness. And now you have a last attachment left over. Looking at what we get here right now, you're fighting 100 meters and below, full auto. Easy, easy. On this range, still easy. Still easy. And then you get the single fire running as well. But obviously, you're not going to use that for the middle target. Single fire is only for the range target, but still you notice how easy you can hit every single shot on point. And yes, you're actively actually swapping to single fire because that would increase your damage by 25%. So if you're now going to shoot someone farther away, instead of just trying to full auto away, you can mount and you can single fire tap him. And yes, you notice how easy it is to take these things off. 25% more damage. Easy peasy as you're hitting more shots in general on the range. And then as you're pushing closer behind your friend who's very aggressive, you get that full auto with a massive time to kill as well. Since the recoil feels very good, you have two choices. Could go for an underbarrel, but you could also go for coom, calm, calm, coom, calm, coom, coom, calm, calm, coom. Which kills for sprint of fire speed and aim down side speed. And you could tune this for aiming idle stability and recoil stabilization. That also makes the gun feel extremely more viable. But if you're saying, Pony, I feel that the gun has a very high vertical pull, I really can't handle that good. We're having the lock grip precision on aim down side speed and hip recoil control, because the lock grip precision gives you a huge chunk of recoil steadiness to then, as you're full autoing, give you an even better vertical control. And even if you're single fire tapping, it just makes the gun essentially be in one plane of existence without much wibbly wobbling out of it. Now we get our friend, the long range player. FJ's Imperium or MCPR, both snipers are almost the same, where the MCPR has a better base magnification and the FJ's Imperium shoots a little bit faster in a row, recocking, and the MCPR has 10 more bullets. There's a whole video on the channel that really compares them and tells you where the advantage lies for each of them. We're going for the MCPR because you're the ranged support of your team, and that's a 10 round mag. You don't have to reload that much if you're repositioning to try to follow up your team. For the Birum, we're taking the OMX for maximum velocity, aim down side speed and more movement speed. And I know the velocity got even more nerfed from the mag explosive rounds, but that's minimal and it's still absolutely viable to play explosive rounds. Two attachments on, followed up by the nil sound silencer for the maximum bullet velocity, and aim down side speed. Now you have a little bit choose your poison. You could either go for a lower magnification sign to be a bit more aggressive, Or you could also go for the Raptor scope to essentially determine where exactly your opponents are and know the bullet drop, and always hit the head because your little red point adjusts. Or you're just going to go for maximum ADS speed with the FSS OV laser on aiming idle stability, with the FSS OV laser on aim down sight speed and aim walk steadiness in case you're strafing while you're sniping, followed up by the Merc stock for the aim down sight speed on aiming idle stability and even more aim down sight speed. You could take the stock off, you could put the Raptor sight on if you feel more comfortable with exactly knowing the bullet drop on your opponent. Now, you're the third breacher. So your two friends are already in the building and you're essentially sniping through the windows. You're taking care that no one enters the building. So you need an assault rifle that can shoot on what, 20, 30, 40 meters, very efficient to have a good time to kill. That could be the Cronen Squall as well. I'd like to recommend you the STB556. It has a 567 milliseconds time to kill, and it's very close behind the 525 of the Lachman Sub or the 539 of the Vaznev. So you can compete with them, but you also have an extreme good movement, ADS, and recoil to follow up on your two players who are already in the building. You only have a 42 round mag. Again, that one get buffed with better ADS time and movement speed now. I do play this gun with a sight since I can't really shoot. I mean, this guy, but distance Dave. Yeah, I mean, I can kill him because the gun has no recoil, but in the matter of moments, in the heat of the action, yeah, that was wrong, but still, I need an optic. Then for the Cronen Mini Pro, technically, you could also choose the AIMO PV4 sight if that is something you like with a little bit more magnification, far and aim down sight speed. And we're adding a very powerful barrel. That would be the Bruin Tarako, which suppresses your gun and at the same time gives you a huge chunk of effective damage range and recoil steadiness. So you again keep off the radar ban and have an incredible low recoil. I mean, there's no recoil so to talk of. You don't have to control. I'm not even moving my mouse. Like, you just align the target and you shoot. I don't really have to pull that much down. You know, it's just very good. You don't have any left and right variation. I love this gun for the simplicity of the beam. And especially with the Bruin Tarako, you have an insane bullet velocity already, so you don't have to care for any high velocity or anything. You can go for Coom. And here we're taking sprint of fire speed and aim down sight speed, but we tune this for aim down sight speed and recoil stabilization. Plus, we can add a laser with the VLK LZR for even more aim down sight speed on sprint of fire speed, giving you that fast moving AR that is not an SMG. Yes, obviously. Good ADS time. Again, close Kevin gets absolutely mentaled. That goes down and distant Dave has no chance as well. He's going to be running left to right. You're going to have to keep your tracking on easy. You're going to have to keep your tracking on. No freaking problem. What is your gun you prefer for the respective role? Are you close quarter, middle mark, or are you a distant Dave? How are you supporting your team the best? Also, no worries. There will be a complete breakdown, which is now the best time to kill gun on the range coming. So you can choose from top 1 to 5, whatever you prefer the most. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the Ftac Siege, the new handgun, full video that explains everything in the nitty-gritty detail about the Ftac Siege. Thanks for watching.